What's up, Foundation? What's up, YouTube? It's me, your big partner man, Cartoon One. Y'all know where I'm from. The Village Storyteller. It's story time. I'm back again, man. What I'm trying to figure out is, I know I told a story once before that hinted around a lot of what I was going on, what I'm finna tell you. Cause I remember mentioning brother man Yo 2. Yo 2 was a BGF. He was in high power in the county jail with me back in the 80s. But now I can't remember. I'm thinking about a situation that I speak on it before that I had with the Mexican Mafia when I was in high power. Because I know I had some people in my comments ask me, tell them something about any type of interaction, if any, that I had ever had with the Mexican Mafia. But anyway, as you can tell from the title of the story, this is when I was asked to do a favor and I fumbled the ball. And I ain't gonna lie, when I fumbled the ball, I really was not sure what direction that it was gonna go in. But anyway, this story. This is back in the, I forget exactly what year. I was coming back for a new robbery or a violation. I think it was a robbery again. But anyway, they had just shut 47 and 4800 down, the Crip modules, and they had sent all of us to 21, 23, and 2600. Put all the Crips over there. Me, I went to 2600. I spoke before the story about how I had mandated that everybody on our tier, it was 13 cells, single man cells. They put us in these single man cells because they couldn't handle us so many packed up in the big cells because we would fight them all the time. So the police said, okay, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put them in single man cells. And that's what they did. Okay, but anyway, I was young and foolish back then, and I was on my gang banging stuff. I was on it. Anyway, I had mandated that anybody and everybody that was on our tier at that time that didn't have gangster in their name had to get off the tier. You know, if you didn't have gangster in your name, you had to get off the tier. I had said that this whole tier was going to be a gangster tier. Now, at that time, for y'all jump to conclusions, at that time, the lines weren't drawn in the sand the way they are now as far as the gangsters versus neighborhoods go. It wasn't like that then. You know what I'm saying? It was, it was problems and all that. But the way it is now, no, it was not like that then. So this wasn't something I was doing, you know what I'm saying, because we didn't get along with neighborhoods or we didn't get along with whoever. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a lot of sets on the tier that we got along with, but you just had to go because this was going to be a gangster tier. And I remember like the only one staying on the tier was the homeboy Pee Wee from 10-5 Gangsters over there by the Undergrounds. Now it was some dudes on the tier at the time. They was like, man, well, they felt like the 10-5s leaned more toward the Underground and this and that car versus the gangsters, you know what I'm saying, because they got that in their name. But nevertheless, 10-5s had gangsters in their name, so the homie Pee Wee was able to stay. Plus, I'd been knowing him. But anyway, due to certain things that was going on happening, I end up being shipped to high power. The police deemed it necessary to remove me from the general population of the county jail, well, the Crip module, and deemed me having to be housed over in high power. Yes, it had something to do with my prison affiliation. Of course, y'all know I was a Blue Note, and what had happened, I knew it. It had stemmed back to an altercation between Blue Notes and CCOs in the county jail. Now, normally, we didn't have that problem in the county jail. Normally, we wouldn't trip like that in that county. But something had happened, and it was a mess. I'm not going to speak on the whole issue, but it was something that took place, and they deemed it necessary to move me, the problem child. But anyway, I ended up going to high power. They remember you remember in some of my the older video where I told you that they came down, they snatched me clean up out the visiting room. You know what I'm saying? Dog marched me all the way back to my cell, packed my stuff up, and then dog marched me all the way from 2600 to high power, where I resided till I ended up leaving. But anyway, while I was back there in high power, I was cool. I remember on the tier. Now, like I say, from the title of the video, like I say, it had something to do with the Mexican Mafia. I'm not gonna say their names. I just don't see it necessary as saying their names. You know what I'm saying? But I'll use Mexican 1, Mexican 2, Mexican 3, like that. So anyway, but now on the tier at the time was me, that I can remember. It was more of us on the tier, but I can't really remember. Like I say, this back in the 1980s, homie. But I know it was me, Mexican 1, 2, and 3. They were pretty much like in a row, left, right, to my right. Boom. Me, then it was 1, Mexican 1, Mexican 2, Mexican 3, if I can remember right. But I remember, I can't remember what's his name that was in the cell next to them. He was a crypto. I know next to him was the homie Demon from 6-0. Light-skinned Demon from 6-0. He was down there. Going the other way, can't remember everybody, but I remember a BGF named Yo2. Yo2 probably dead by now. Old school, because he was old then, but was disciplined and very, very in shape. You remember, if y'all go back to some of my older videos, you remember me making a video about Yo2, saying how, he would get up at like 2 or 3 in the morning every morning and do like 2,000 6-count burpees. Didn't sleep on no mattress, none of that. Slept on nothing but newspapers. The police had took a lot of stuff from him, trying to break him. Wasn't no breaking that old man. That old man was tougher than leather, y'all. Tougher than leather. And my old video, I say I would talk to him sometimes when I would come out for shower until, the Crips checked me about it. They're like, which I'd already knew better, but, I got caught up and they was like, hey, kill that, because we did not, my faction of inner prison banging we did not have nothing to do with the BGF, period. But so anyway, I remember the homie, Kurt from 6 Dudes Brim, he was on the tier, and it was somebody else. It was 2 Bloods on the tier. It was Kurt from 6 Dudes Brim. He was in there for a hot one on the one time, and it was somebody else down there. I can't really remember everybody. But back to the story. One day, I was asked by Mexican number 1, right next door to me, if it was possible, if I could do a favor for him and his people. So now I had knew Mexican number 1 from YA. He was a rider. He was stomped down. He was a rider. And I told him, yeah. He was from Santa Fe. For those who don't know, Santa Fe is the Mexicans' way of saying San Fernando Valley. They call it Santa Fe. And he was from a clique called Borrego Valle. I remember you would ask him, what does Borrego Valle mean? It means a Valley of the Rams, And that was his clique, BV. But anyway, he had got at me and asked me would I do him and his people a favor when I go to court tomorrow. And I was like, yeah, what's up? So he wanted me to pick up some heroin for him. And I was like, okay. Now, I was somewhat shocked that they even asked me. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, dang, okay. But they did. And so it went through. I went to court the next day. Unbeknownst to me, while I was down, I was in the county. I mean, not the county. Yeah, I was at the county. No, I was at the court building, CCB, I think. I was at the court building, CCB, and in the holding tank, it was about 15, 20 people in the holding tank at the time. Mexican SA come up to me like, "Hey, Holmes, you know, blah 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 blah." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." He like, "Here you go." Bang, he handed me something. I never even looked at it, not at that time. He get on, you know what I'm saying? Walked off. I checked it out. Bang. I said, "Okay, I got you. I know who to give it to." Getting it back to the county jail. I'm from the old school, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Getting it back to the county jail. Anyway, fast forward, I end up losing it. How I end up losing it is a whole nother story within itself. In fact, how I lost it, end up losing it, is kind of far-fetched. To whereas I probably would not have believed it if the story was given to me the way I gave the story. I probably would not have believed it, y'all. So anyway, when it was time for me to come up with the heroin, I didn't have it. I didn't have it. So I end up telling Mexican number one, "I ain't got it, homie." I'm like, "What?" "I don't have it, man. I lost it." "You lost it?" "Yeah, I lost it." Now at this time, I don't know what direction it's gonna go. This is a situation right here that could have not only put me in a position where I had to do something to someone, or might have been having someone trying to do something to me, or not only that, putting all my people, because it was like 4 Crips on the tier, putting my people in danger of having something done to them, or having them having to do something to others because of what I started. All that went through my mind. All that was going through my mind. So anyway, I'm telling them, you know, boy, I ain't got it. So Mexican number one went and talked to Mexican number 2 and 3. They conversed for a while, y'all. It wasn't loud. It was on paper. It was on paper. Finally, after about 40 minutes, Mexican number one came back to the thing. He got at me. He like, "Hey, home." He said, "Tune, don't worry about it." I'm like, "Huh?" He said, "Don't worry about it. You know, it ain't no thing. Don't worry about it." So now that, I ain't gonna lie, that kind of spooked me. That kind of put me on my heels. Like, what you mean? Oh, you just gonna chalk it like that? You know, I ain't got to explain. So now I'm like, "Hey, look, hey, homie, look, check this out. Woo, 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 woo. You know, I don't play." I'm telling him, you know, whatever words I used at that time, but basically it was me letting him know, "Man, look, I'm not lying. You know what I'm saying? I don't play no games with you like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm a convict. I know how this go. Boom, 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 boom." And he was like, "No, Toon, don't worry about it, man. It's cool, it's cool, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? It's cool. Don't worry about it." I was worried about it, though. But now, one of the things that's going through my mind, they probably saying, "You know what? We had no business getting at him about doing this anyway." But I believe they got at me to do it because the relationship that me and Mexican number one had. You know, we talked, you know what I'm saying, exchanged pictures, you know, a little bit. And this and that, you know what I'm saying, on the tier, you know. And like I say, talked about why stuff. But Mexican number 3 was the one. Mexican number 3 was the one. I remember Mexican number 3, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not going to say his name, but I'm thinking he was from EMF, El Monte Flores. I'm thinking from Flores. But anyway, he was the one. He was the one. He was the end all and be all as far as they went. So anyway, I believe that's how it kind of came up, man. We had no business, but now I'm leery. Now I'm leery. So I get it to homies. I'm like, cuz, what you think? So I'm thinking in my mind, so you think, what I'm gonna do? Cuz, what I do? Take off? I say, homie, I don't trust him. I don't trust him. I know how they get down, cuz I've been into it with them. I know how they go. I can't see him. I know how they like this hair around. I can't see him really accepting this loss like this. So we talking about it. The homies don't want me to jump the gun and start no war on this tier. So I'm like, well, cuz, hey, I'm telling them I ain't let nobody do nothing to me. I don't let nobody do nothing to me, cuz. They're like, we understand. Then, they even went on to force tell me that I had no business accepting that task anyway because of something like this. I had no business accepting that task. And after I thought about it, I knew I wasn't supposed to fool with that. I knew I had no business fooling with that, but me being cool, you know what I'm saying, and me being cool with Mexican #1, I went on and tried it, and it went bad. It went south. So now I was at a quandary. Wait to see what they gonna do, or just go ahead and do what I know to do. Cooler heads prevailed. I went on, you know what I'm saying? I said, you know what, cuz, all right, cool, bet. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna kick back. If they don't trip, I ain't gonna trip. Lo and behold, they didn't trip. They didn't trip, y'all. I ended up leaving with no problem. Now, the moral of this story is, when you in the world, in that type of world, in that type of environment, if you know that you ain't got no business doing something, don't do it. Especially when it's something as volatile as it can start a problem between races. It can start a war. You know you ain't got no business doing it. Don't do it. And I never did it again. Anyway, man, this little infomercial, man. Little infomercial story from your partner, me. Cartoon One. Represent the gangsters. I'm out. Peace.